Now, in some shape or way or form, you've heard of who Jeffrey Epstein is. What I bet you didn't know is the whole time he was actually truly never a pedophile. At least that's what every news channel and every big A-list celebrity in the White House or office wants you to think. Now, apparently, we have redacted documents. We have cut footage that is apparently being called raw footage, shit that was edited in Adobe Photoshop, the same exact fucking editing software that I'm using right now to edit my videos, is apparently raw footage in the terms of evidence that can be used for state proof. I don't know the exact terms, but apparently we have redacted documents from the FBI or whoever released the footage. It's supposed to be apparently state information, like state documentation proving, representing that this is actual footage here. And here we have it rising. Here we have it 2 or 3 weeks later coming to the internet to haunt us back, saying that it was redacted footage and it was basically edited in an editing software like Adobe Premiere. I want to go on here and see some things because this is wow. I just woke up and this is a lot to take in. So apparently, FBI Deputy Dan Bongino, which is he's the person who was even representing this whole Jeffrey Epstein, how we're going to upload these raw footages of Jeffrey Epstein before to show proof that he did not get murdered in prison. That basically, like, it was a truthful suicide. There wasn't absolutely no implications, or there wasn't anything to interfere with Jeffrey Epstein's suicide. Deputy Dan Bongino is the person who was saying that this can be used as state evidence to represent Jeffrey Epstein. And we have it 2 or 3 or 4 days later that it was covered up. The footage was, part of it was cut and a lot more. So the truth is that every major politician or every big triple A-list celebrity that has been seen with Jeffrey Epstein is completely sweeping this shit under the rug. And I'm just gonna sit here and listen to a couple of videos right now to basically give a eyes view of what's going on.
You still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years.
He's such a great dancer.
You're 14 years old.
Yeah, you knew very well my age. I don't think you cared.
And who helped him build this international human trafficking?
You said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide.
So one of the footages, or one thing that's going around right now on social media, is that Jeffrey Epstein, apparently when it was brought up to Trump about Jeffrey Epstein, the guy completely swept it under the rug too. He was basically like, are we still really talking about Jeffrey Epstein right now? Like, are we seriously still talking about this creep while we have things going on in Texas and here in Whoop Wop and a bunch of hoopla? Just me, myself, including millions of other people are seriously still talking about this because you yourself, you were included in this whole situation. There are pictures dating back to before you were even in office, you being seen with Jeffrey Epstein. So yes, this is something that we're seriously still talking about in 2025.
No list, no names, just a memo, a video, and a final statement that left more silence than answers. After years of whispers, lawsuits, and one infamous death in a locked federal cell, the Department of Justice has finally spoken. But what they said and didn't say has only deepened the mystery. If one man built an entire network of abuse, how did it end with
There is a list apparently with over 900 victims on there that never got released. Well, I mean, apparently now to the FBI, it was a bunch of hoopla. Like it was never happened. It was like a fucking unicorn being seen in the middle of the day. Like you're crazy. This never existed. Complete shenanigans. But the FBI, the head director of the FBI, apparently the one who was representing it, which is Dan Bajano or Dan fucking Vertigo or whatever his name is, the head of the FBI stated that the footages that were going to be released, it was raw footage, like raw footage, nothing that... Sorry, I completely got lost. But what I do remember partially talking about is Dan Vagina. Apparently the head of the FBI, he had claims stating that this raw footage was going to be used in the state legal documentation proving that Jeffrey Epstein did not do suicide or was not murdered, that he did do suicide. And now we have it 2 or 3 days later that was a complete lie. The footage was redacted. It was edited and chopped up in Adobe Premiere, what I want to fucking say. I have to honestly listen to some more because I'm not too in tune with the situation, but I want to at least give my insights on it.
But in 2008, a secret plea deal changed everything. Federal prosecutors allowed Epstein to plead guilty to 2 minor state charges: soliciting prostitution and procuring a minor.
So here we have it. I'm not sure if this news is old, but apparently there was a secret plea deal that happened. So a plea deal that wasn't announced to public, that Jeffrey Epstein basically, he pled guilty to soliciting prostitution and procuring a minor. This was never released to public. This is just now, I don't know if it's old news to me or if it's old news in general or if this is new, but there's minor evidence of this guy, Jeffrey Epstein. I'm completely shocked. I'm lost for words and I'm completely shocked because we have Jeffrey Epstein here in a secret plea deal, basically admitting to soliciting minors and procuring a minor. That is fucking disgusting. If that isn't enough evidence to at least shed some light for the FBI or for any politician to look deeper into what's going on in this situation, it is fucking disgusting. It's not that they're completely blind and don't hear the situation, understand the situation. It's they're sweeping it under the rug. I don't even think it's as much as because they think we're dumb. It's just they think we don't have no power to do anything. And then that's what it is, because not you or I or anyone who is watching has any power to do anything, to have any real footage come out. The apparent raw footage is already released, and I want to say that they're going to stand on what the raw footage is that's being presented right now. I want to say that's what they're going to stand on, and it's probably nothing else that's going to be done after that. It's already being said that anyone who thinks that there was ever a 900 list is completely crazy or schizophrenic or whatever. Like, they think people are crazy for proof and evidence of a 900 list with Jeffrey Epstein apparently soliciting minors.
On the night of his death, both correctional officers assigned to his unit failed to check on him for several hours. They later admitted to falsifying logs. Even more concerning.
So here we have it, Jeffrey Epstein in the jail cell, and the 2 guards who were supposed to be on duty watching him failed to log that they were watching him and apparently called it neglect on a suicide watch, which I don't know how that's possible. There's surveillance footage everywhere in the prison to keep and track and monitor everything that's happening 24/7. So you're telling me for several hours on one of the surveillance footages, no one was watching, nothing happened at all. You just had this man who was on suicide watch completely neglected and out in the free for several hours. Complete bullshit, but let's just go with it and say that did happen. We had guards that were neglecting Jeffrey Epstein for several hours. What are we going to say about the footage? There are cameras everywhere in the jail cell to watch everything. Everything. You have the chance to turn around and sneak something, but something like someone dying, it's just really hard to believe that went unnoticed in a prison.
The surveillance cameras outside Epstein's cells were either malfunctioning or recorded unusable footage.
And then on top of failed logs, unsupervised Jeffrey Epstein on suicide watch, even though that's their whole job is to supervise and watch and pay attention to what Jeffrey Epstein is doing. So even on top of failing to log the files and Jeffrey Epstein being unsupervised, we now have it that the footage, it didn't work at all. Like, it was unsuitable footage to post to the public. Like, the coincidences on top of other coincidences. Failed log, unsupervised for several hours. Cameras don't work. Okay, 2 guards aren't there for several hours. There's someone that is literally supposed to be after those two guards. There's someone who's supposed to watch those 2 guards to make sure everything is going right. And you're telling me that if something happened with that situation is unbelievable.
Public distrust deepened after further details emerged. Officers Tova Noel and Michael Thomas, the 2 guards on duty, were found to have browsed the internet, read sports articles, and fallen asleep during their shift. In 2021, they entered a deferred prosecution agreement, admitting their failure to perform mandatory checks. In return, they avoided jail time.
And then we have the 2 guards that were apparently supposed to supervise Jeffrey Epstein. They were scrolling through the internet the whole time and ended up falling asleep for several hours. I don't even want to get into how that's probably not possible in a supermax prison. Whether if he was in one or not, it's just that doesn't usually happen in prison. I mean, I've never been to one, but I would think for a prison, for people, for the most heinous crimes is where people are sent to. There are more steps and precaution to just 2 guards watching Jeffrey Epstein, and that's it. Like, I would think that there is a guard watching a guard watching a guard. If we're talking about someone like Jeffrey Epstein who was on suicide watch, I can't grasp my head around how stupid.
Mark arranged for renowned forensic pathologist Dr. Michael Baden to observe the autopsy.
You say that the answer to whether or not he killed himself could be in his eyes. Explain that.
That helps. That is, with hanging, when the loop comes up under the windpipe, under the mandible, there usually is not any kind of hemorrhages in the eye. With homicidal strangulation, because of the increased pressure, there are hemorrhages in the eye.
So we apparently have more evidence that, I mean, it's probably been here, but new to me, that Jeffrey Epstein apparent suicide was more homicidal, meaning that someone did it for him. The way that it was put, how I just ended up listening, is that more of a strangulation, when you're doing suicide, your eyes, they tend to go somewhere else. And the way that Jeffrey Epstein died is the broken bones in his body. It seemed to an autopsy professional that it was more of something that was done by someone else than himself. Which that should be irrefutable evidence, but there's a lot of shit that's going on that we don't know about.
More details emerged over time. No photos were taken of Epstein's body in the position it was found. His body was removed from the cell before a thorough forensic investigation.
Even worse, his body was tampered with before a thorough investigation of forensics. So even worse, how you see on TV shows where they have the yellow tape and everything, and they have the little triangle things and chalk and everything. Basically that, which is supposed to conduct after every suicide or homicide or whatever, you're supposed to conduct a proper forensic investigation. We're getting it now that it just removed his body out of the cell without a forensic investigation or nothing being conducted prior. Which is even worse. So it's just a lot of bullshit going on that we're hearing with this whole Jeffrey Epstein situation.
Were the clients. By 2020, flight logs from Epstein's private jet, nicknamed the Loletta Express, had become public. Names range from entertainers and business executives to global political leaders. None were charged. Virginia Giuffre, one of Epstein's most vocal accusers, named Prince Andrew in civil court filings.
Asked me to dance. He is the most hideous dancer I've ever seen in my life.
It's disgusting. We have some of the biggest politicians, like princes to fucking kings and queens and medieval hierarchies, and presidents that have been seen with Jeffrey Epstein. And there's proof and evidence, like irrefutable proof and evidence that these politicians and major A-list celebrity names were with Jeffrey Epstein. And it's still like, none of them have been prosecuted. Which I can get, because if there's not direct proof and evidence, then yes. But to us who know, and it's not in a courthouse, like, we know that these big name celebrities are not just around Jeffrey Epstein to sit and drink a cup of coffee all day. We know that. We know that. But it is just disgusting how we have politicians who know what's going on behind closed doors, who act completely blind and oblivious to what's going on with this entire situation. It's disgusting.
In 2022, the case was settled for an undisclosed amount, with the prince admitting no wrongdoings but stepping back from royal duties. The BBC interview he gave in 2019, meant to defend himself, only worsened public perception. Meanwhile, social media and independent platforms continued filling the vacuum, with mainstream investigations.
We have huge evidence of the prince. I forgot. Apparently, there's a prince the same prince that I'm talking about that was flying with Jeffrey Epstein. That the only evidence that we have that he was ever involved in any interaction with this alleged 14. It's not alleged. With this 14-year-old girl is he stepped off royal duties, and that is the only evidence that we have that the prince ever did anything with this 14-year-old girl that we are talking about here. Unbelievably fucking disgusting. They are trying to turn a blind eye to irrefutable evidence outside of, because I kind of get how the court system works, and there's a process for everything. But to turn a blind eye to factual evidence, like the prince stepping off royal duties and it being lied about and saying that he wasn't doing that, it's absolutely fucking disgusting, because we're having the public, the news reporters that transfer this information back to us, even turning a blind eye to it, I feel like.
The facility where Epstein died in 2019. The DOJ summary declared there was no credible evidence of a wider conspiracy, no secret blackmail operation, no so-called quote-unquote client list. The memo read in part, "We did not uncover evidence that could predicate on investigation against uncharged third parties." It also stated that there was no evidence that Epstein blackmailed any individuals, and no indication that any prominent public figures were involved in illegal activity. The video footage...
Well, yeah, I don't think he blackmailed fucking Donald Trump into coming to party with him, or any of the major celebrity names that are in this list. We now have it that it's finalized that there was apparently never a list of any victims of Jeffrey Epstein. It was a pony. It's imaginary. We're crazy for you ever thinking that. And I'm pretty sure we're never going to get that. He has died 5 years ago. We're still trying to fight back and forth with this case. We're now just getting resurfaced documentation that the apparent raw footage released by the head of the FBI was redacted, cut, and edited something that you can edit shit in, that I am currently editing in. Fucking Adobe Premiere Pro. It's a bunch of beluga.
Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted of trafficking minors, but the DOJ now claims there were no identified recipients of that trafficking. Virginia Giuffre named Prince Andrew in sworn statements. He settled out of court in 2022, but was never criminally charged. Flight logs revealed a roster of elite names, but association was not considered evidence of wrongdoing. Meanwhile, the DOJ says it found no blackmail tapes, no list of clients, and no credible evidence of extortion. But Maxwell's trial confirmed that girls were recruited for sex with wealthy men. If Epstein had over 1,000 victims and Maxwell helped him recruit them, the logical question remains: trafficked to whom?
Jeffrey Epstein's sidekick, basically, fucking Jelena, I don't know, Maxwell. There's proof that she was doing child trafficking. However, they basically weren't able to identify none of the people that she was trafficking. So they opened up and said that yes, we see she's done trafficking, but we can't identify who. Which there are a relentless amount of pictures of her and Epstein in these same pictures with apparent minors, or I guess alleged minors, which they are minors. We're not going to say alleged. That there are pictures with them, with those minors, and you're telling me we can't backtrack none of the pictures that we have or irrefutable proof or evidence with Jeffrey Epstein and this disgusting human being of a person, Maxwell. You're telling me there's no evidence that we can actually track back to who's actually in these, who's actually the alleged victims? You're crazy.